Welcome to 2 Hours No Traffic, a New York, Philadelphia sports podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Spen Harris. He's Philly Brandon. And
We're
Brandon,
Phillies Brandon this week.
Philly's Brandon. I just have one thing to say before we start.
What's up?
I used to pray for times like this, decline like this.
That's not the song anymore. Now we're dancing on our own.
Philadelphia, stand the F up. I mean, I texted you this before the episode. Philadelphia is the hottest sports town in the country right now. You guys absolutely smoked. Was it the defending world champion Atlanta Braves in the wild card round?
No, so we beat the Cardinals in the wild card round, which we weren't supposed to win. Then they're like, all right, the Braves, they're going to get rinsed. Beat the Braves in a gentleman's sweep, 4 games. And now we're looking at the Padres, which we'll get into in a second, my feelings on that. But so far, yeah, Philadelphia is absolutely on top right now. We have players partying with the fans at Xfinity, people getting tattoos of Brandon Marsh signing Zins, Bryce Harper like raining down over Xfinity like he's a god, Rhys Hoskins spiking a bat into oblivion. I mean, the vibes around this city are so impossibly high right now that it's a problem. The Philadelphia police chief sent a letter out to businesses saying that on October 22nd, when the Phillies come home for the NLCS, that they should be closed that day and they should board up their windows in the event we were to win that game. Not lose, win. They're worried about the rioting after a dub. Philly is on a completely different plane from the rest of the world right now.
Yeah, I don't blame the police chief for having that strategy. And you talked about, some of the Phillies guys going nuts. How about your newest receiver over there with the Eagles, A.J. Brown, in his post-game press conference talking about, what was that? He said that was the greatest environment he's ever played in, and he freaking loves the city of Philadelphia. And it just goes to show you, maybe Ben Simmons was doing Philadelphia wrong. Maybe there's a right way to
maybe
go.
This was decided. Wrong. He sucks. We're awesome. Like, look, here's the thing. And the people that get it have loved playing here, and the people who've hated playing here, we didn't like either. A.J. Brown, I love. I mean, Swole Batman is like, but again, like that kind of character. Like, there's going to be Swole Batman shirts in the parking lot of the Link for the whole season. Like, it's such a great town. Bryce Harper said in his post-game press conference, there's nothing like Philadelphia when it's winning, because no matter what happened during the season, we are going to go like 100% all in behind you. I mean, I'm not sure if you watched the broadcast, but Ken Rosenthal was on the field game 4 in Philly, and his phone sent him a health notification that the decibel levels in his environment were damaging to his hearing. And if you spent more than a half hour in that environment, you risked hearing loss. I mean, that's how crazy things are getting right now in these stadiums.
I'll tell you this. I wouldn't want to go to a Philadelphia library right now.
No, they're empty. I mean, actually, probably the best time to go because no one's there. I mean, today's Tuesday. This is the first day this town's been sober since last Friday, collectively.
That's incredible. I know you guys are on an amazing run. We talked, a little baseball, football, and I mean, you were saying this before the podcast. Obviously, the 76ers have high aspirations this year. You think they're going to get smoked by the Boston Celtics tonight, but I think that's just the sports fan in you, because when everything is going right with every single team, there always has to be something that just brings you down to earth a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think for you, it might be right. It might be that, opening game against Boston, they lost in the championship last year. They're very hungry. They want to prove that last year wasn't a fluke. But we'll see. Let's talk some baseball, Brandon. I want to talk about the Philadelphia Phillies, the Mike Schmidt, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley. We're going back here. Roy Halladay. Let's talk about the Phillies, man.
You mean we're talking about the Fightins? The Fightins?
Oh.
That guy's a legend, for one. I'm sure you know the clip I'm referencing. They brought him back, interviewed him again this year. Dude was wearing the same hoodie from 2011. Still has it. That means he's a lifer. But no, I mean, on the serious note, the team as a whole is on an absolute tear. And we saw this during the regular season. Like, the Phillies are so talented, but all of their talented guys are hot and cold. Like, we don't have consistency. But when we're hot, I mean, you saw us reel off like 12, 13 wins in a row. Like, that's kind of one of the heaters we're on right now. I mean, when Rhys Hoskins gets going, that's when you know it's a good sign. He's about the coldest of them all. Rhys is hitting 3-run homers. JT Realmuto inside the park home run. I mean, 1 to catcher, 2 inside the park home run. It's just there's weird stuff that's kind of going our way. Brandon Marsh, midseason acquisition. Wasn't sure we were going to get out of him. He's been a revelation, kind of Jason Worth-esque. If people remember how he first came over here, there's a lot of parallels with that team. But most of all, Nola and Wheeler. If you're going to get far in the playoffs, you have to have pitching. We really only have 2 guys, but we have 2 absolute aces who have allowed a combined, I believe, 3 runs this postseason in all their starts. It just has that. The title is what it is. It has that team of destiny kind of vibe where things are breaking right. The personalities are coming out. The team's having fun. I mean, they're singing Dancing on My Own. They're doing karaoke to Dick down in Dallas in the locker room. Like, people are getting hammered. It's got those vibes where it's like, but maybe they'll cool off, maybe they won't, but it certainly doesn't look like it.
Well, here's what you guys have going for you. The 2 juggernauts in the NL, the Braves and the Dodgers, are both out of it. You knocked out the Braves, and the Padres got rid of the Dodgers. So it's nice when you don't have to worry about, the New York Yankees, the Houston Astros, or one of those juggernauts in your division. That is nice. The funny thing I thought when you were talking about some of these players, you always see New York Mets excel in other places. Like the fact that you 2 of your best players are JT Realmuto,
Marlin.
Thank you. And Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, there's Wheeler.
2 former Mets.
No, Wheeler from the Mets, Realmuto from the Marlins, Syndergaard from the Mets.
You telling me Realmuto never played for the Mets?
He did not, no.
Get the fuck out of
Lifetime
here.
Marlin.
Damn, I think the Mets wanted him one year. That's why I'm getting confused here.
No,
Shoot
the
some
Mets.
ladders.
So the way it was going to work is the Mets wanted him this year before we gave him $100 million deal to keep him in the building. So they were tied to JT. What's funny is a couple of years ago, Mets fans, me and Mets fans are actually more or less kind of all right. But Mets fans were kind of like, we don't need JT. We have James McCann, best catcher in baseball. Who? Well, James McCann's not playable. They can't put him in the game. So, kind of
that was a snafu on my bad. For some reason, I thought Realmuto was a Met. But I wanted to ask you, Brandon, this Phillies team has a lot of great personalities, and I know who the best players are. But according to you, who are your top 3 favorite players on this Phillies team? Let's start with 3 and give me 3, 2, 1.
So my 3 favorite players, not the best, my 3 favorite.
Your favorite. Yeah, we're not talking about the best.
Okay. 3 favorites got to be Schwarber for the vibes alone. I don't know if you saw his locker room dance, but he has huge, big boy fun vibes, which I love. The Alec Boehm career arc from I effing hate this place to I love this place, and now he's, a cult hero in Philadelphia. And Gene Segura, number 1, for sure. Dude's never made it to the playoffs. Longest active streak without playing in the playoff game. And he has just been a fireball. I mean, every single, he's jumping up and down. He got a double. He started twerking on second base. Like, the dude's just an absolute menace right now. And he's playing great baseball, too. But you can tell how much it means to him. And I don't know. I feel like everybody in Philadelphia is rooting for Gene because we know this might be his last season, and I want him to go out on top.
Kyle Schwarber hit 46 home runs this year for you guys. Wow.
Yeah, any other year that probably leads to majors, except for this year when Judge decided to challenge for the all-time great.
San Diego's favorited by a 1.5 tonight. Give me your pick. Just who's going to win and who do you think covers?
I suck at betting baseball, so I'm going to ignore I don't get bet baseball and covering because, it's so much harder. I do think the Phillies win this one because Wheeler's pitching. We need to win this one. I think this ends up being 3-1 Phils. But, yeah, Wheeler tonight. Figure gives up 1. The Padres have a really good lineup. I don't think we're going to tee off like we have against Atlanta. Yu Darvish is a really great pitcher, so I'm thinking maybe 1 against him, a couple against the bullpen. But, yeah, 3-1 Phils tonight. I think Harper I think Harper has 2 RBIs. Give me JT with another RBI.
I like it. I like it. All right, and I'm going to pick the Padres to be an absolute jerk.
I want to talk about the fact that because you brought it up earlier, how we dodged LA, and a lot of people are thinking about it that way, and I get it.
Wait, did you mean? Is that a pun right there? That you?
Oh no, that's amazing. Actually, no, I
that's pretty good.
I stumbled into that. Yeah, we got to clip show that. But I wanted LA. I'd rather play the Dodgers. Playing the Dodgers to me is like playing the Mets and playing the Braves. They have everything to lose and nothing to gain. They're a 100+ win team. They're supposed to be here. They're trying to fend us off. The Padres feel like we do. They weren't supposed to be here either. They're riding the same emotional high that we're riding, and I don't like that. I'd rather face a team trying not to lose than a team with absolutely nothing to lose.
I get that. Yeah, I mean, when you're David versus Goliath in baseball, I think it's a much cooler thing than, it being David versus David, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like I would always, and Philadelphia as a whole. I'll have to send this to my buddy Mike because he, drills me about this. But Philadelphia loves to be David. We don't like to be Goliath, even when we are. It's no fun. We have this inherent underdog mentality to the point where the Eagles are 6-0, and we're still taking it. We're still taking offense to that as if we're an underdog. And a little bit of disrespect has been put our way. But I just did it right there. Like no matter how good we are, we need to be David.
Rocky Balboa only lost when he was a favorite. Well, that's not true. I mean, because all those fights he won that were kind of, they were washed opponents. But when he was a favorite against Mr. T, he got walloped. Every time Rocky was an underdog, he won. That's a Philadelphia sports tale right there.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way it feels. Now, we are a New York and Philadelphia sports podcast, and we're going to give you your time to talk about the Yankees later on in the broadcast because I know it's a team you care about. But we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the Mets at least a little bit because they were running away at the NL East, 100-win team, and, got dispatched pretty quickly in the wild card round. Now, we've had Mets fans and Braves fans and Cardinals fans, for that matter, all over Twitter saying the playoff format's wrong. This is why we lost. The Mets have a better shot against these teams. I think it's all kind of – I think it's being a sore loser. I think it's being a nerd. I think it's like it's all that. Like, where do you land on the playoffs did this to us debate?
Stop. They've altered this stuff so many times to give more teams a chance. What about the years where the Mets are a borderline playoff team? Like, enough. The Mets had a chance to be in the Braves position, and they choked. And they absolutely just friggin' choked down the stretch against the Padres. They choked down the stretch against the Atlanta Braves. Mets fans should be used to this, right? Like, look at Frank the Tank from Barstool Sports. Everybody was getting, happy about the Mets. This is the year. We got the pitching. We got the hitting. We got the perfect team. And Frank he knew they were a play away from just losing everything. And he ended up being right. You can't blame playoff format when your team doesn't perform on the biggest stage. You just can't do that. I'll never do that. It's just, it's lazy. And it also discredits a team like the Padres, like the Phillies, who earn their way to get to the NL. Was it the NLDS right now?
No, we're just won the NLDS. We're in the NLCS now.
NLCS. There you go. Okay. So, yeah, I think it's a total load of baloney to say the playoff format screwed the Mets over. I think Mets fans know exactly what happened. It happens every year. And until they're able to change the culture from being a choke artist organization to an actual winning organization, then we're going to say this every single year.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page there. Real quick on the Eagles, because I have dominated the first 14 minutes of this podcast, which doesn't happen too often. We do lean New York pretty.
Listen, Philly's hot right now. I'm not gonna push back. I don't want to have to talk about the fact that the Yankees are playing an unnecessary Game 5 against the Cleveland Guardians in this freaking ALDS. I just it's silly to have to talk about this, but yeah, let's stick with Philadelphia because they're hot right now.
So Sunday night, figure got the Phillies clinch on Saturday. Unfortunately, they needed to travel to San Diego on Sunday. Otherwise, the link might have crumbled. Sunday night, Dallas Eagles at the link, packed house. The whole town's been binge drinking since Friday afternoon. And, Eagles jump out to a big lead early on. Things get a little dicey in the third. But, Eagles end up beating the Cowboys by, I think, 9, covered the spread. And all is well in our world. Cowboys, on the other hand, came into this game going, we don't need Dak Prescott. Cooper Rush might be the guy. We can beat anybody. Look out, Philly. All this, talking real huge. Like got a couple of beers in, you get that liquid confidence going, and then we beat them. And immediately it is, oh, you're celebrating because you beat our backup quarterback. This is Philly's Super Bowl. We only lost by 9, which is a horrible argument. We only lost by kick rocks. And there's one guy, Cameron Magruder, who doesn't listen to this podcast, but God, if he did, he's the most annoying Cowboys fan ever. He's so much famous, I don't know what from. And immediately after, he was like, oh, they call it Dallas, but this is all they care about. We're their biggest game of the year, talking all this. Then we beat them, and it's, oh, congrats, you beat Cooper Rush. Dude, it doesn't matter. Everyone moves the freaking goalpost against this team, and it's driving me crazy. It was, you won't beat Minnesota. Okay, we beat Minnesota. Well, not that good anyway. Minnesota's their only loss right now is us. Well, then, okay, Jacksonville's going to beat them. We beat Jacksonville. It was raining. It's raining for both teams. Who cares? Then it was Dallas. Well, then we beat their backup quarterback. How many good teams do we need to beat before 6-0 actually means something? We're still ranked behind Buffalo and Kansas City, which, debatable. But we're 6-0. Why play if it doesn't matter?
I mean, you and I both know why those narratives are coming out. No one wants to credit the Eagles because we're not used to them winning. When a team in the NFL randomly gets hot, it takes us a while as fans to say they are a great team. I want you to look at the Arizona Cardinals in the last few years. They'll start off 4-0, 5-0, and everyone will be like, oh, Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury, they're a contender, and they blow it down the stretch. So Philly has been playing exceptional football. And by the way, about Dallas, I get that they've pretty much dominated the NFC East for the last, decade. You guys have had a few years. You did have the Super Bowl. But since when are they the Patriots, right? Being the best team in the NFC East is like being the smartest employee at Burger King. It just, kudos to you, be the smartest person at a friggin' stock brokerage, right? Like be the smartest person at NASA. But to claim that, what are the Eagles' biggest game of the year? You guys are the Dallas Cowboys. You're not the Patriots. You're not the Steelers. You're not a storied franchise over the last 20 years. You've won absolutely nothing since the 90s. Don't give me that. We're so much higher than the Eagles in terms of significance in the NFC East. I just don't think that's accurate.
No, I agree. I mean, if we're looking at the NFC East, it's in order of relevancy. It's Eagles, Giants, Cowboys, Commanders.
Right now, yeah.
We have a title in 2017, playoffs last year. I mean, you have those back-to-back titles, in the late 2000s. They
were back-to-back, but yeah.
Yeah, Dallas is, living in the past, and the Commanders, no one has ever really cared about. Allegedly, they have fans. I haven't met one.
And yeah, I'm with you. And the only other thing I'll say is the twist zone, they were building up this match and then, we beat a backup quarterback. So I saw a clip the other day. This one I want to compare it to. I saw a clip of Peyton Pritchard and Jaylen Brown on the Celtics. And they were just playing one-on-one. And Peyton Pritchard was giving him the work. And people I think the comment or the quote, the caption was Peyton Pritchard got really good this year. He's going to be sick. And I looked at that clip and I was like, well, their best defender, Jaylen Brown, is getting cooked by the backup combo guard. And I don't really think that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Twist zones in sports are incredible because you can take any sort of narrative and apply it to what you want to say. The only thing is, at the end of the day, wins and losses matter. Results matter. So Dallas was undefeated with Cooper Rush as their quarterback. They've been playing great football. The two-headed, running back partnership between Zeke and Pollard had been looking great. Their defense had been looking elite. You guys, they came into Philly. You guys spanked them on the hiney. They can give you every excuse under the book. they did not win. They lost that game. So you guys are still undefeated. What's wild is, we talked about your schedule at the beginning of the year, but the fact that you guys don't have a loss yet, I can see you guys ending up with, I would say, under 3 losses on the season. Like, I think those final 3 games, you got Cowboys, Saints, Giants at the very end of the year. You're going to lose one of those. You still have Packers, Titans, Colts coming up. I think you'll lose one of those games. And that's 2 losses. And maybe you lose another one in those 6 games. But you got the Steelers next week. That should be a dub. You have the Texans. I'm sorry. You have the Steelers on 10:30. You have the Texans, Commanders, and the Bears are the only other games I mentioned. So you guys have a chance to go, 14-3, 15-2. That's a very real possibility for the Philadelphia Eagles this year.
Yeah, the Eagles have a really easy schedule. Luckily for them, they don't play in the Eastern Conference of the NBA because the Sixers do not have an easy schedule by any stretch, and we kick off tonight against the Celtics. And all I'm going to say about it, without having seen a game, I don't watch the preseason. I love basketball to death. I don't watch the preseason. They're going to kill the vibes. Philadelphia is riding so high. And there are a few teams that are so adept at killing the vibe as the Sixers. Phillies were used to being hurt, so right now we're up. The Eagles pretty consistently middle to up, they're always in the playoff contention. Flyers, they can't hurt me anymore. The Sixers hurt me every year. They get my hopes up, and then they crash and burn. And right now my hopes are up, so it's about crash and burn o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, half this episode we talked about Philadelphia having that underdog mentality, and you guys are not an underdog. You guys, if anything, I would say it's almost 1A and 1B and 1C for me with the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Celtics. Like, I think those 3 teams are neck and neck. You can throw the Nets in there, but the Nets have to prove it to me before I give them anything. So as far as your expectations the last few seasons, like last year was wild because you guys had no expectations. You guys, exceeded them with Maxey and Embiid, and then you got Harden, and it was like, okay, well, you guys went from being a team with 1 superstar to essentially a team with 3 superstars. So that was kind of sick. This year, with Harden losing all that strip club weight, you guys have
all the lemon pepper sauce.
You guys have some expectations that are pretty lofty. So, look, opening night means nothing. It's a matter of teams feeling each other out. I did watch preseason basketball a little bit. I get why you're feeling that way, and you're also so freaking high on the Eagles and the Phillies. It's almost impossible to be that high on 3 different organizations in your own city.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If something's going to give right now, it's going to be the Sixers, probably because the vibes in the Phillies are so high, and I trust Rob Thompson to death. I think he's a phenomenal manager. I think he's going to steer the ship the right way. Nick Sirianni feel the same way with the Eagles. Yeah, Doc Rivers, I don't. If someone's going to hurt me, it's going to be Doc, and I'm prepared for that. But we're going to see. It is what it is. I don't want to – we've been on such a high note this whole podcast. I don't want to let my Sixers dread pull the whole thing down because the Eagles are 6-0. We should be blowing everyone else out in the NFC East. But the Giants keep hanging around right on our tail.
Yeah, so I don't remember the year it was, but I'm sure you can recall. There was a year where Eli was still the quarterback, and the Giants, they didn't win the Super Bowl this year. But they just kept coming back in the fourth quarter of games. And they would, like, Eli would make a few plays down the stretch and they would win a few games. They'd lose a few close ones. This year feels like that. It feels like we can play 2 to 3 mediocre quarters of football. But once that final 12-minute timer comes on that clock, something in the Giants wakes up on offense and on defense. They were down against the Ravens. They were able to turn over Lamar Jackson twice in the fourth quarter and win that game. They were down against who else has the Giants played that they why am I missing games right now? I'm going to their schedule. I'm trying to see. Oh, this is annoying. It should be a lot easier to do. My point being, they've come back in the fourth quarter a lot. Daniel Jones has, I got to give our guy credit. We had on, by the way, they came back against the Packers in the fourth quarter. They shut the Packers out in that second half. And then I believe the Panthers and the Titans were also come from behind victories. I think the Bears, they pretty much had it in wraps the whole game. Our guy that we had on the show, the Giants radio guy, said in the beginning, he talked about Daniel Jones before the season started, his interceptions getting less and less each year. And is Daniel Jones the reason that the Giants are 5-1? He's not. But he has thrown 2 interceptions to 5 touchdowns. He has a completion percentage of 67.3%. And he's playing smart football. Brian Daboll has proven to be the coach that the Giants have been waiting for since Tom Coughlin left the team. Daboll's the man. Wink Martindale is a freaking animal as our defensive coordinator. This team is young.
That's the difference. Your defense
Martindale,
has been, because the offense has been, if we're being honest, the offense has been lackluster, if not a little bit better.
Let's not discredit Saquon Barkley.
That's what I'm saying. Well, okay, yeah. But as we're looking at point total, without an elite defense, the point total you're putting up isn't winning football games. You guys have an elite defense.
Yeah, I think in a weird way, the Giants and the Cowboys are kind of playing the same style of football, which is run the ball a million times a game, play really good defense, and pull out wins where you're scoring 20 points. Pull out what did they put up against They put up 24 against so they put up the last 3 games, they put up 20, 27, 24. My point being, like, that formula, run the ball well, don't turn the ball over, stifle teams on defense in the second half, and you're going to win football games. And you're right. I think the defense up to this point has been better than the offense. But for me, I always view that as a positive, because if you're 5-1 and your passing attack really isn't working, every single week, it should start to get a little better. And we've seen Daniel Jones, even with this depleted receiving core, that, Kenny Golladay stinks. Shepard's out for the year. Slayton is having to step up. Well, Tony has barely seen the field. This guy, Wan'Dale Robinson's looked pretty good. Jones is getting better and better per week. And I think it's only a matter of time before you start seeing 2 to 3 passing touchdown games from Daniel Jones.
I want to put some respect on our boy's name. Paul Dottino was our Nostradamus, as it were, for the Giants football.
Yes, Paul Dottino. I have a terrible memory, by the way, so that wasn't I don't remember anyone we've had on this show, but I do remember Paul. He was awesome, one of my favorite guests. And look, he called it. I'm a pessimistic Giants fan. I did not see this success coming. So it's been a pleasant surprise, and I actually expect them to win football games now.
And I got to hand it we're both the same way. I came in as an Eagles fan ready to I was feasting, ready to trash the Giants. You were trying to protect yourself from getting hurt again. And Paul very gracefully said well, no, I'm on the field. You're both idiots. We're going to be all right. And I was like, oh, yeah, whatever, paint a rosy picture. Dude might know a couple of things because the Giants are pretty all right, to the point where as an Eagles fan, I'm worried because, yeah, we're 6-0. I'm watching every game, knowing that if we lose, we now share the 1 seed with the New York Football Giants. And that's not somewhere I really want to be. But more goes on in New York, much like Philly. We're fighting the battle on 3 fronts. And the Yankees are trying not to get bounced in the playoffs from the Cleveland Guardians. So how are we feeling tonight?
Score is 5-1, top of the 6th. Cleveland has 2 on, 1 out. I have a good feeling the Yankees hopefully probably pull this off up 4. Loizaga's on the mound right now, and the pitch, it is a out. Caught it on the fly, so 2 outs, 2 on. I think the Yankees are going to pull this out. We're going to see a Yankees, Astros, ALCS, and I think everyone and their mothers thinks that the Astros, coming off what they get a clean sweep of the Mariners, the consensus pick is the Astros are a better baseball team than the New York Yankees. But as we've seen from the Phillies, as we've seen from the Padres, the better baseball team doesn't always necessarily win. So,
yeah, and I would love to see. I love any time the Yankees and Astros can go at because there's not a lot of love lost there. And I think baseball can get a little soft from time to time. So every two teams genuinely hate each other. I'm a big fan of that being on the national spotlight. But what this podcast was essentially founded upon, and where Spence's experience lies, is the Brooklyn Nets. If anyone's an expert, which I don't think anyone is, he's just close to it. So what can we expect to see this year from the Nets? Because I never know what to believe.
So I've ping-ponged back and forth in my head so many times about this team. But from what I've heard from the players in their, media sessions, from what I've seen in preseason, from what I've watched, video highlights on Twitter, I don't think this team is putting too much pressure on themselves right now. I think that they know it's going to be a work in progress. I think they know that it's going to take some time for Ben Simmons, who is a ball-dominant player, to get acclimated with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And I think for the first time since KD and Kyrie have come here, I think the expectations are not as high. Do Nets fans want to win a championship? Absolutely. But can you give me 10 Nets fans right now who say, oh, we are unanimously the best team in the East? You can't, because that's just false. You can't discredit what Boston did last year. You can't discredit the moves that Philadelphia made in the offseason and getting Skinny Harden back. You can't discredit the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis, who are 2 years removed from the championship, and Giannis is still a freaking animal. If Chris Middleton doesn't get hurt last year, there's a good chance they go back to the NBA Finals. So for Nets fans, I think that we're optimistic. I don't think we're being unrealistic in our expectations. I think that you're going to have to see this team gel. There are a few question marks. For example, we have 900 shooters. So if you have Seth Curry, Patty Mills, Royce O'Neal, and Joe Harris, who's going to play, who's not going to play, who's going to get those minutes? We do have some question marks in our front court. Right now, our two centers on the roster, it's Nick Claxton and Day'Ron Sharpe, who's a second-year player, and then you also have Markieff Morris. So how are we going to sort of work that rotation with one stretch five and two, I would say they're rebounding in defense and lob catching centers and Nick Claxton and Day'Ron Sharpe. You know what you're going to get out of KD and Kyrie. You don't have to talk about that. And I think we kind of know what we're going to get out of Simmons. We're going to get a third, semi-star who doesn't, the expectations for him himself are just get back to 80, 85% of what you were in Philly, minus all the mental fuck-ups, and we'll be good.
Yeah. Look, when you guys first got him, I said the same thing. I hate him. He's everything that Philadelphia doesn't stand for. He might be perfect for the Nets because he doesn't need to do anything he's not comfortable with. Kyrie and KD can score in buckets. That's not a problem. He can take the facilitating burden away from Kyrie. He can take guarding, elite wings away from KD. He can really just let those two guys do what they are great at and take all the dirty work away from them. Where you can go wrong, and I've already seen this and at least mentioned, is I know Steve Nash mentioned that, we're not going to ask him to shoot and ask him to do this and ask him to do that. That's the right approach. The more you say it, the more fans, the more other people outside the organization are going to be like, well, we're paying this guy how much to not shoot, to not, stretch the floor, to not be aggressive. That's where it gets a little dicey. Just let Ben Simmons exist. Pretend he's not even there. It's probably your best course of action.
A few quick things. Loizaga got out of the inning, so they did not let up a run. Still 5-1, headed into the bottom of the sixth. As far as what you're saying, by the way, with the mental fuck-ups I said before about Ben Simmons, I meant on the court. I'm talking about passing up the dunk. I'm talking about, not being aggressive at all in the playoffs. He can't play like that if this Nets team wants to win a championship. He can't have those instances where instead of being the third best player on the court, he becomes the fifth best player on the court. He just can't do that. If the Nets struggle out of the gate, I do think that we're going to see a coaching change. I think that Steve Nash's leash is a lot shorter than people want to believe or people even understand. I think that Sean Marks would much rather depart with Nash if they get off to a rocky start than have to trade away Durant, trade away Simmons, trade away Kyrie, and just restart in the middle of the season. But optimistically cautious is how I would describe my feelings as a Brooklyn Nets fan. And that's kind of how I feel about Ben Simmons too.
That's the best way to be with Ben Simmons. We've actually overshot our typical half hour episode here, so y'all are welcome for the free 4 minutes and 49, 50, 51 seconds of sports content. Before we end for the week, though, I do have an announcement. I just came over the wire. I'm always over here kind of working the phones even during the episode. So next week, there will be a bit of an off-cycle episode. Next Monday at 8, we are joined once again by our friends over at Crossing Broad, this time by the Cog and Toboggan. One of the funniest, grittiest, like sports, Philadelphia sports, I don't say media members. I know it's not what Crossing Broad was founded on. Just a great dude to follow on Twitter. So he'll be on Monday at 8 with Spence and I, and we add to the Crossing Broad lineage that's come through this podcast. So shout out to those guys as always.
I think a good portion of that interview will depend on how the Philadelphia Phillies play over these next few days.
It's going to be great because, I mean, they'll be coming home this weekend for the series, so we'll get a fresh, raw, emotional, Philadelphia reaction to it. So must listen, must watch, Monday at 8, right here, 2 hours, no traffic. Brought to you by Sideline Sports.